what's the biggest tragedy in life? Is it the loss of a house? Is it the loss of your money? Is it the loss of a family member? Is it a loss of a child? As we know, as I've said from the pulpit at our church, that I had a 2-week-old baby that passed away. We knew it was going to happen. Is that the biggest tragedy? As tragic as those are, and as hard as it is to go through stuff like this, and we all have to go through it at some ways, and these big, horrible tragedies. The biggest tragedy is not knowing God, right? So we've been talking about theology and knowledge, and we've been talking about just these big 3,000-foot overviews. We've talked about the conscience. But now we want to get into, in this video, we want to get into the personal salvation aspect. In John 17, in his high priestly prayer, Jesus says that they may know thee, the only true God that you have sent, or that you have sent me. And so, or what Jesus is saying there is that, I'm trying to sum it up. He's saying that they would know that Jesus is the divine Messiah, the God-man, the mediator between God and man, and that people may know this in order to get to God. And we've been seeing that in the Gospel of John, just the fact that people need to worship God. That's what they were made to do. And people need to love God, and they need to live after the ways of God, and they need to follow after the commands of Christ, commands of God. And how do you do this? Well, you know God in a faith-based relationship. Why is this important? Well, going back to previous videos, because God said it is in His Word. That's the height. He's praying this, and it's important that that we know what eternal life is. Life is short. Life is very short. And you're not promised a long life. I can see it. I've done funerals over the course of my ministry, and I've done funerals. And you can see just for a moment what funerals can do. And personally, it's done it for me, but even for other people, and not everybody, but I would imagine for a good part of people, it reminds them of their mortality. Shakes them up a little bit. They remember, this is not going to last. This is not all that there is. I'm taking a step back and just make another general observation. Most of us at our best, we have 70 to 90 years, right? If we don't go before then, and people go before the ages of 70 and 90. But usually we have around 70 to 90 years. Very few get above that. And then we're gone. That's it. James says, what is your life? It is a vapor. We're gone. We have 70 to 80 years. And going back from the previous video, how does the culture deal with it? And I don't have to read a book. I see this in my personal life. I've seen this just experience. This is what's been happening, is that people just decide to live it up here. And they said, and they don't think about it. And I have this phone in my pocket. We have these distractions. I like my phone. I listen to podcasts, and I find myself, but it has had negative effects on me, to be honest. But there's been some positives, but mostly negative, I think. I'm thinking about maybe I should get rid of these distractions. But we're distracted. So how does our world deal with it? It's not new. Apparently, I've read this in secondary literature. Blaise Pascal, a French philosopher, said that people they entertain themselves to distract themselves from their mortality. So they don't want quiet. They want to be distracted. And as he said, that it makes you think, and it reminds you about things. And the more you start thinking, the more those thoughts and conversations within yourself and the ideas and concepts come up. And one of the concepts that can come up is just thinking about things is mortality. Doesn't mean it always happens, but it can often happen when you're thinking, right? So we have 70 to 80 years. So once again, how does our culture deal with this? Well, it deals with it. Once again, it's not going to acknowledge what's up here. We've said that before. So it's going to deal with it down here. And what have I seen? What are we seeing? Some form of hedonism, right? Well, it's about the journey. You're going to have a good time. You don't know, so why don't you just experience people Why don't or experience people, vacations, other things, have fun, enjoy your life, enjoy your loved ones, and relish life. Okay, and in some sense it's not bad. I think you should enjoy it. But it is bad if you remove God out of the picture, right? Because you're supposed to be thankful to God. If there's no God, how can you really be thankful for those things? They're just chance, fate, things that happen, right? Okay, so, well, what have we been talking about in our videos? Well, there's a God from outside of the world. And that's the only way we can make sense of this world. As apparently Thomas Aquinas had once said, in order to find the answers to this world, you have to step outside of it. And so you have to get outside of this world to make sense. You cannot make sense from within your life without God. You can't make sense of it. You can't make sense. And I want to say, people are talking about how things are falling apart. If I could be polemical, I think you're noticing this. Yes, you look at history, how things fall, and I get that. But I think we're experiencing this right now, and they don't have time to get into all of that. But what's the most important thing, as we've seen in the Gospel of John? Eternal life. Eternal life is the most important thing. If you live without God, you will die without God. You will go into separation from God. There is a place called hell, but you need to understand that in our confession it calls, in Westminster Confession, it talks about the state of death, the estate of death. Is that someone in this world, they say, oh, God's going to send me to hell. Listen, they're already away from God. They're already in the miseries of this life. They're already separated from the knowledge of salvation of God. And so the biggest tragedy is that someone cannot know God. And when I say this, I'm not even talking about like in a humanistic form, like, man, if you go to heaven, you'll never die, there'll be pools in paradise. Because that could be a form of a false gospel. That's just secular humanism divinized, right? Or it's a religious secular humanism. We're talking about knowing God and communing with Him, having a faith-based relationship with God by grace alone from a gracious God. And as Jesus says, what does it profit your soul to gain the whole world and to lose your soul? There's stories and just about I'll tell you one, so I'm being vague. Stalin on his deathbed apparently shook his fist at God. His daughter saw it, shook his fist at God as one last act of defiance. And he fell down and he died. One of the great noted atheists was alone. And he said, loneliness, send a little child in here, do anything. I can't stand this loneliness. And there's other stories with this as well. And so it's a sad thing in this life, but it's also a sad thing for eternity. Eternal life is the greatest you can have. Jesus is wisdom. He's the revelation of God. He's the love revealed of God. And that's what is the greatness. In closing, Dr. Kelly, which I'm getting these seminary notes from and just kind of gabbing them to you in my own way. So Dr. Kelly mentioned that there was an atheist named Cheryl Pike, or Pick, however you pronounce his name. He was a converted French atheist. And he said the only tragedy is not to be a saint. And I want to ask you guys and really kind of impress upon all of us here, including me, that we really guard ourselves against the world and see it like that. The greatest tragedy in life is not to be a saint, someone who has been saved by the grace of God, who's been set apart unto God, taken out of death, being brought into the life of God. That's the greatest tragedy, is not to be a saint. And I think that it's good. We should care about political causes. We should care about our neighbor. But once again, what was when Jesus was asked, what's the two greatest commandments? Love God And he said the second is like it. You know, so what he's saying about there's number one. There's really the first one is it really is kind of set apart. The second one flows from the love of God. Love God and then love our nature. And this is what we're made for. And this is why humans will be a dog chasing their tail until their soul until they come to the knowledge of God, and that they have eternal life, and they know it. That's the other thing, that they know it. Well, with that, I'll close with that, and hopefully for all of us, this can just kind of reorient ourselves to see that just the precious gift and the glorious truth of the knowledge of God and having Christ live within you, who is the eternal life. Thank you.